as I communicate with you now, I only have a certain amount of words, certain number of words that I can try to say to communicate to you thoughts, feelings, emotions, actions that, I want you to do or I want you to feel. But there are simply not enough words. There will never be enough words to convey what cannot be conveyed. And that's the biggest lesson of this video, is that there's a bigger picture, and this is what I'm going to talk about, that there's a bigger structure. There's a bigger picture, which is that there's a bigger structure to everything that goes on in the world. And it's not, I absolutely hate language. I hate the fact that I only have a certain amount of words that I can put together in a sequence to stay within some boundaries of some grammatical rules and laws to make sure that I can convey what I want to convey. There are simply not enough words. There are simply not the right words to convey what cannot be conveyed. And that's the bigger picture, the biggest lesson of this video and of this idea, this topic of you're being trapped by language, is that this entire world structure, the people that control the world, that through mind control, through indoctrination, through media, all these things, they're able to do it by convincing you that there's a concrete correlation to the non-concrete thoughts, ideas, actions, etc. in your mind. Now, that may sound crazy, but all that really means is that we're living in a dream, right? When you go to sleep at night, you dream. But when you wake up, you're still dreaming, but your conscious mind has been programmed to perceive the world in only a certain number of limited ways. Your speech is limited. What you're able to say is limited because there are only a certain number of words that mean certain things, and you can only say them in a certain sequence, and you can only evoke certain feelings. We're all witches in a way, right? Because we're all casting spells using language to basically tell other people what to think, how to act, what to react to, what not to react to. And to me, it seems almost futile, I love that word, making this video, because I'm just speaking words. And you could just click off of this video, you can hear these words and they might not resonate with you. There's so many different things that could happen between this form of communication. But that's because just like math is a fake science, just like all these religions are fake religions. And of course, I say that, but there's obviously pieces and bits of everything that contain truth and whatnot. But for math, for example, it's like, one doesn't exist. Like there is never a time when there's a singular, like everything is always moving, everything is always more than one, multiple, constantly shifting and evolving. One is more of a theory. It's like an idea. It's like it's like saying like my skin is brown, right? It's like you can say that it's brown, but like if you really like look closely, like there's probably a million different shades that are on my arm right now, on my face. When you kind of look at it generally, it kind of like blends together, but there there is no one. And that's the kind of idea with math, even with language, with words. And even reading this Edward Snowden book, and part of the reason why I quit law school is that you see when the people that run the world control, these languages and things, he was talking about how in, legal terms, they were changing, the definitions of acquire, when they were talking about how, you can acquire, I don't know if he was saying acquire, I think he was saying acquire like surveillance data. And, what they were doing is they were basically, saying that acquire didn't mean basically logging the metadata and like logging the information. Acquire meant like actually viewing the contents of the information, something like that, right? So even at a very simple level, we all don't have the same definition for words, right? And even in the song Simulacra by Aqua Loomis, there's the lines that go, how do you define words with more words? It seems like a glitch in the system. And it is because words are simply references to emotions, thoughts, feelings. That's why they're spells, they're witches. We're witches is because we're essentially trying to control the outcome of somebody else through words that we say. So in a way that makes you just want to have the video here and be like, so what's the even point of this video? The point of this video is to basically be like, you gotta think for yourself. Shit, I didn't even need to say anything, all right? You know inside, just trust. I'm still using words though, and none of these words will accurately depict what actually needs to be done because they are blocks. I think I've used this analogy before. It's like giving a kid, a few blocks to rearrange to communicate. Oh, food, or water, or hungry, They can only do it so many ways, and at a certain point, you're just like, what's the fucking point? The Oxford Dictionary has, 500,000 words? What's the point? What about the other 500,000 that we might need to say certain things, huh? So, that's it. Don't be trapped. I was inspired by this because I was about to journal. And I don't even feel like journaling because I just feel like I'm, writing in a box. I feel like I'm, still, I can only say subject, verb, noun, pronoun. I'm not a piece of computer code. And that's the trick. Okay. This is part 2 of my previous video. And I do better at thinking when I'm driving. Because I think I just, in a way, I zone out of the matrix, It's like getting in flow mode. But pretty much what I was going to say, I was just thinking about, it's like, man, I should have said this, is I hate how you have to always use language, in communication. Obviously you don't have to. It's I feel like in relationships, for example, when you're kind of with your partner, your partners, and whoever, and you all kind of make up language or make up words, or call them nicknames, and that is kind of the proof in the pudding of language can only go so far. But I just think about it in the simple context of even talking to strangers, or when I meet people in public, or have conversations with people. A lot of times I feel there just aren't words. It's and that was another example of me rearranging my 3 little blocks to being what else can I say here? I don't know what else I wanted to kind of say, but that was it. I just was I just feel there's so many contexts and situations where I feel I have to use language, and I don't want to. Even let me think about this example right now where, and it's weird, it's so fucked up that I'm translating from my brain to speech what can't be translated from brain to speech, if you know what I mean. Because my mind is not only thinking a lot faster than I can talk, but it's using shortcuts, right? So it's my mind, I might think of something, and the actual phrase or sentence might be take 20 seconds to say, but in my mind I kind of just use shortcuts, and I kind of got the gist of what I was saying. And that's kind of the essence of this too, which is I don't know, I just feel a lot of times it's you have to, it's you're using full sentences with people, you're explaining things, you're breaking things down and telling people how you feel and all these other things, when a lot of times you don't even need words. I was actually thinking about this yesterday when I saw someone. I didn't know if they were homeless or what, but I was what would I even go up to her and say? Obviously there are a million things you could say, But to get the outcome that I wanted, I guess maybe that's where I went wrong. It was like trying to control the outcome. I think I'm gonna get to get on this freeway soon, so I'm gonna hang up. But I was like, man, like it would be nice if I could just go up, like look her in the eyes, share kind of a moment, not like romantic or anything, but just share a moment, and then give her a hug, and we would know what food she would need, or what else she would need, you know? You just wouldn't need words. All right, see ya. So those videos were filmed on the 1st of November, now it's the 29th. And it's interesting because I didn't know what I recorded last. I knew I had some videos stocked up, but it was interesting because today I was thinking about making another video, and the topic of it was also still going to be about language because, you know, I've been doing sort of like a media / digital fast some days, or some, you know, part of the days where I just won't, you know, listen to anything, music, news, media, whatever, anything. And one thought that came to my mind was in the context of language, and how there, you know, language is keeping you trapped in, because if you really think about it, you're only given certain ways to view the world. Case in point, I was thinking about how you would ask somebody, because I was writing this song, I was thinking about how would you ask somebody or point out the fact that they've been put into a world and basically told from day one that you can't create anything. You know, you're basically told from day one that this is how things are done, this is what you're going to do, and you're just going to follow the instructions. Specifically, I was thinking about in the context of money. And, you know, I started writing this song. I forget the first 2 lines, but, you know, essentially one of them is kind of like, you know, why did you start using money that you never gave consent to take? You know, like, why did you sort of just like accept the world as the way it was? You know, start using for people in the United States like green currency. I know in other countries it's different colors and coins and whatever, but it's all the same at its essence, because it's all controlled by the same entity. How would you ask somebody, you know, like, there are no words, right? But that's the point. There are no words, because of what I'm trying to explain is something that is beyond the words themselves. But to give it context, you know, when you ask somebody a question, pretty much you have, you know, who, what, where, when, why, how. You know, you also have like could, you know, can, or should, you know, should you, you know, or, you know, other forms of words that can be turned into questions. And I wanted to do like a little drawing diagram on video, but you can kind of imagine it in your mind, where you see like, you know, you have who, what, where, when, why, right? Now, think of them each in like little boxes, right? And then there's like space in between each box. Now, what's in that space in between? Now, that's the key to life. That's the key to true reality. And that's the key, I guess, you know, I was saying what the thesis of this video was before, but that's the true thesis of this, and that's the true key to all of this, is that our reality, our world, actually lives in between all of these words that we have. Because if you just have simply, you know, you only know the words, oh, who did this? Who did this? That entirely shapes how you view the world, right? Like, you always think, oh, who? Oh, it has to be a person, or it has to be a thing, it has to be an entity. But what exists between who and what, you know? The example that I was going to give for this was, you know, how people have sort of created new forms of language, new words, new what do you call them? Not appendages. New appendix, not appendix. What is it? Like, you have prefix, suffix. I was thinking of the word like the show, like blackish, right? So people have come up with this term ish to basically describe a spectrum. When black isn't, when it's not exactly black, it's blackish. It's it's not gray, it's grayish. It's like, it's not what was another way you could use for ish? It's not, it's like you're taking classes online. It's not school, it's school-ish, like, you get what I'm saying, right? So that ish is the door. That's what's in between all of these words. And you could say like, oh, whatever, it's fine. Like, we don't need words to describe every single thing, right? Like, is the answer to this like to have an infinite amount of words so you can, but that's the thing. Infinity can never end. That's why in the song Simulacra, it's like, we need more pixels and more pixels and more pixels. And when is enough pixels ever enough when you're mapping something that can't be mapped? When you're trying to draw lines over territories, when those lines and territories don't even exist, and everybody's living in this simulation of a world. And part of that simulation is the code that we use to navigate it. Part of why not using language would be so powerful is the same reason why not using maps would be powerful, is because as soon as you define, lock in something, you are jailing it, you're imprisoning it. So when I have that question that I kind of started this part of the video off with, which was like, how do you even ask somebody the question of like, I guess the closest I can get to the question is like, why did you accept this currency that you never consented to? And the reason that question is off is because we all know why. We all know why. It's the same reason anybody else does. It's, because they were indoctrinated into it. They were taught the same way that their parents were taught. And, people in this society, in this world, have pretty much this idea of like, oh, if it was done that way in the past, and we'll do it that way again. And also this idea of like, oh, well, the government structure is so big, and, it's kind of like this anomalous, is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right word, but it's kind of like this ambiguous kind of thing. We all know why. The question isn't why, though. And it's a word that doesn't exist. I came up with the word pa. But again, you're kind of trapping yourself in again. But it's not why. We all know why. We all know what the reason was. We know for the most part why you didn't challenge it. That's why the question is more, and this is even a bigger picture of like this idea of concreteness, bipolarity of everything. We think with every yes there's a no. We think that with every question there's an answer. But, people have like rhetorical questions, for example, but those are just questions that people already know the answer to. But what about questions that can't be answered? What are the words we use for questions that can't be answered or are not supposed to be? What, and again, this is me speaking from the Matrix. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I can use this language all day, but the real answer, the real key, the truth lies beyond anything that can ever be said. And it's in spirit, it's in soul, Something that these bots can't do. So that's it, folks. It's like they say in those Mickey Mouse movies, right? That's all, folks. All right, bye.